we're going to be talking about next. But yep, there you go. Borrowing and lending. But it's really important before we go into that, before
Sorry,
Amy
let me go
takes
back to it.
over here. No,
Okay.
that's fine. We're excited. We're excited to be here, you guys. We're excited that we get to share this with you. Before we go into the borrowing and the lending, it's important to take some time and talk about the fact that children used to see their parents going to work and they're staying home. They're not
Oh,
clear on what it is that mom and dad do anymore. Why do I have to leave and go to school and you get to stay home? So the classroom is going to be a really important space to have those conversations about earning and employment because it's not as clear as it used to be. We can't assume that they're always going to be on the same page with us on that.
that's
Take it
an
away, Amy.
excellent point.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to get to borrowing and lending because
Yeah.
this is my favorite. I saved it for last because it's my favorite. Are kindergartners too young to learn about credit? No. They are of a perfect age to start learning the foundations of credit because the foundation of credit is borrowing and lending. The foundation of that is trust. And that's a social and emotional skill that we can recognize and develop and learn skills to develop. Um, all choices have an opportunity cost. Again, everything has an opportunity cost. Borrowing and lending is no different.
Yep.
This is, uh, ooh, we have some hilarious comments in the chat. So trust is developed over time. It's the foundation of borrowing and lending, right? If you're an irresponsible borrower, you're going to break trust. Um, uh, excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, so we make lending decisions. We can make decisions as a lender based on what we consider the qualities of a good borrower. And I love the idea of having a classroom discussion where you determine your expectations for borrowing and lending. This can be classroom supplies or library books. I know a lot of librarians go through this with their students. How do you treat a book well, right?
Mhm.
But this is not just applying to shared items, it can be applying to personal items, like something you treasure. If you lend a treasured item, there's an opportunity cost there. And if you borrow something treasured and you are not responsible with it, the social opportunity cost there can be really great. So we want to also be showing kids that this is a place where we can learn from our mistakes. This is a place where we can show someone, we can develop some concrete ways to show people that we do deserve trust. A great example of this is credit scores, which I know, why would I talk to my third graders about credit scores? But you can explain it in a fairly simple way, right?
Yep.
There are companies out there that have a special math equation and they use that equation to give us a number. And the higher the number, the more trustworthy with money they consider us. And I shared with my students, I made a bunch of mistakes when it came to that borrowing money. I borrowed too much and I wasn't able to pay back what I borrowed on time. I had to make payments and I was late on some of my payments. So my number went down and the privileges that I got with that number also went down. And so it took me time, it took me years, but I did two actions. I made sure I made payments on time and I didn't borrow any more money. And by doing that, I slowly showed these companies that I was trustworthy again and learned from my mistakes and I'm moving forward. I recognize you know your students and they are, young, but we can again start laying this foundation
Yep.
so that our kids have background knowledge to draw from later. They may not retain it all, but they will absorb part of it at least.
Yep.
We know this. And connecting this idea of trust, connecting this idea of social currency, dare I
Mhm.
say it,
Mhm.
to this personal finance kind of behavior can be really powerful for our students.
Absolutely, Amy. And one thing that I want to mention also, a good way of introducing the topic of credit, which is fundamental, and I'm going to go into greater detail in a moment, is, hey, this is your reputation. This is your financial reputation. This is what you're known as. So you want to make sure people know you as a responsible borrower. And that starts in the classroom, right? When we facilitate opportunities in our classrooms for lending and borrowing, that's a great skill to have, and it's a really inclusive way of promoting lending and borrowing behavior in a healthy way, because it's also kind of hard to lend something that you're kind of attached to. it's also super appropriate to have that conversation of what is okay to lend. There are things that are not okay to lend. And that's something that we need to talk about as well. Amy was mentioning credit, and a lot of our students, especially our students who are immigrants, their families may come from countries where credit isn't a thing. Okay, they're a cash-based economy. A lot people that haven't really been outside of the United States are really surprised by this, but most of the world does not rely on credit to consume things or to pay for things. They rely on cash, and that's okay. Why are we talking about this here? Why is it important in this space? We're assuming maybe that all students have seen parents or adults paying for things with that credit card. Some of them may not. So keep that in mind and be as detailed and expand on the topic as much as possible, because many of our students have never heard of credit. They don't understand it. So this may be the first time they hear of it, and we want to create a really great opportunity for them to begin building that awareness, acquiring that awareness of, oh, this is another way of purchasing.
A great point, Milady. Thank you. So that is our section on personal finance behaviors and how we can tie in social emotional aspects to it. And what we really hope that you got out of that section of this training was that there are so many different levels of interwoven connections of skills and concepts between financial education and social emotional learning. It is, like we keep saying, your real life applications, your real life examples. Will I use this on a test? Maybe not. Will I use it in real life? Yes, you will. So I do hope that this has hopefully gotten your wheels kind of turning a little bit on how we can start making these connections in relevant ways to your students. What we're going to do, we've been at this for a little over an hour. We're going to go ahead and take a short break before we come back and talk about brain breaks. We want you to be sort